Hi, Chaim, we're going to start soon.
What's up, Tatele?
How are you, man? Your camera's off. How you doing?
How are you, my friend?
Excellent, excellent. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I just had
How's
a great conversation with Ambassador Shapiro.
how you did?
I'm uploading it to YouTube now.
What did he have to say?
Good stuff. You watch it. It's only half an hour, but it's great. We went back and forth on annexation. It was great.
Well, it's going crazy. I don't know what's.
We didn't mention.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
We didn't mention Corona once.
What does he? How does he see the whole thing with government forming situation?
Hey, we didn't talk about it.
I saw Mr. Louder joined. Where is he?
I am right here.
What's up, Tatele?
Hello there. So I can't sit outside because I'm actually working, unlike all you bums.
Well,
You know, it's like 11 o'clock here, right?
Yeah, whatever. Israelis don't go to sleep.
Bro, Sam, let me ask you a question. First of all, Yasher Koach, and thank you for everything you guys have done to make sure that Bernie Sanders is not the Democratic nominee.
You know what? Usually I sit there and go, we've done nothing. But I'm going to sit there and go, you're welcome.
Right, you've done a lot of shit. Nobody would believe you that you've done nothing.
Yeah.
And the other question is, what you read on Illinois 3 about Dan Lipinski?
So I was asked about that earlier today. So DMFI didn't get involved in that race as a strategic calculation because we don't have to prove our pro-Israel bona fides. We have to prove that we're part of the Democratic Party, our organization. And Lipinski was deserted by the Democratic Party. He's anti-choice. He's bad on LGBTQ rights. He voted against the Affordable Care Act. Pelosi barely lifted a finger, unlike with Cuellar, who she killed herself for in Texas. NARAL went after him. Planned Parenthood went after him. HRC went after him. J Street's taking credit, but they were such a minor player in this race. So we had to make a calculated decision not to engage because, frankly, he caucused with the Democrats, but many Democrats consider him one. So because of basic positions, I mean, choice and LGBTQ rights, those are basic positions. And
what's the is there any opening with Newman, or she's a lost cause?
She met with AIPAC.
Yeah, her paper is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, but she met after criticizing AIPAC. She met with them. Yeah. Anyway. Listen, I think if McCollum's legislation still is in existence when she's sworn into Congress, she'll
co-sponsor it.
And she will be. And we'll be able to tell at that moment whether there's hope for her or not.
Yeah, of course. No. Oh well.
Since I'm the only person in my office, fuck it, I'm lighting up my cigar. Excuse my language. Sorry.
It's only a Shiur, you know.
Well, it is a People's Republic of San Francisco. You may have your office may be bugged. You may get the secret police come in a second.
Manuel, worse, my office is in Oakland.
Oh gosh. The Berkeley crowd is gonna show up. Well, they're not in class, so at least you're not that much in trouble.
Okay, we're gonna get started in a minute or two. We'll just all enjoy the banter between you guys.
Well, there is actually a protocol to this.
Yeah.
I shall return.
Okay.
See, I think I've got the nicest setting because
Are you kidding?
I know you got the view of the desert. I don't like the desert, so.
You're like a desert. You know, no, you've been here. Nicest setting. You're sitting in the middle of Dallas,
I
Texas.
know.
I'm sitting in God's land. I know people in Texas think they're in God's land, but
Hey.
do I need to show you on the map where I am?
Yeah, no, I know where you are. You're in occupied Palestinian territory. That's where you are.
I don't mind as long as I get to live here. Call it whatever you want.
It's raining in Southern California.
Southern California is nice. I used to live there. Okay, I'm putting in the chat here. If you see there's a chat box here, I'm gonna put the source sheet. The source sheet's in Hebrew, so and you don't need it. I'll explain everything very well. But if you do want to see the sources inside, so the source sheet is there, and you're more than welcome to open up the source sheet and follow along. But like I said, if your Hebrew's not perfect, or if you don't want to look at the source sheet, you don't have to. So that'll be fine. So let's get started. We got a good crowd.
Hey, Uri.
Yeah.
Why don't we go around and let everybody introduce themselves? I don't know. I only know Sam and Jonathan.
Okay. Chaim, why don't you get started there? Wait, Chaim, we can't hear you though.
You're muted.
Oh, he's not muted. It's just his microphone's not working. Okay, that's Chaim. Okay, Manuel, you're next on my Hollywood Squares play out here.
I'm Manuel Radjanov in Dallas, Texas. I am a friend of Uri's, and I know Sam and Jonathan on this thing. Thank you for organizing, Uri. I think this is a great idea. I mean, I'm going stir crazy at home, so much so that I actually shaved today, shaved my beard off. It's kind of crazy. But great to see you guys, and thanks for organizing this.
Sam, you're up next.
Sam Lauder from San Francisco. This Cuban is actually from a tobacco farm in Cuba that I was able to go without government approval. Just want you to know. And thanks for putting this together, Ori. I actually have to jump off in about 15 minutes for a conference call with a client, unfortunately. Or fortunately that my clients are still doing work, so.
Okay. Say hello to the vice president for us.
Not that client, but thank you.
Okay. Joanna, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Joanna Rose. I'm in Orange County, California. I am foregoing a cigar, but definitely having Scotch in my congressional tumbler.
What kind of Scotch is it? Okay. Classic Glenmorangie. Okay, that's good. Yehuda, you're up next.
All right. Thank you, Rory, for putting this together. So Yehuda Friedman from West Hempstead. Been a proud smoker and learner with you for a bunch of years, and I think it's a really fantastic idea. So pleasure to meet you, everyone. And unfortunately, I also have to hop off in about 15, 20 minutes or so. It's 5 o'clock over here, and it's witching hour for the kids. So dinner time. So thanks for the opportunity.
Okay. Mr. Schreiber.
Rabbi, I'm Jonathan Schreiber calling in from Dallas. I've known Rabbi Pilichowski for, how old is Tova?
I don't know. Oh, my daughter?
Yes.
My father's the one. You could ask him. She's 14
Something. So
Right.
basically since she was born, give or take.
So we're at
And I've
13, the other two kids.
Right, something like that. And so I've been learning with him on and off since then. And unfortunately, I left Israel just as the Pilichowski clan was coming. And so we've been too far for too long. So I'm glad to be smoking. I am not drinking with you, with all of you. Unfortunately, I am not drinking because it's still a little too early for me in Dallas.
Manuel, you don't seem to have that problem.
Yeah, Manuel doesn't have that problem at all.
Right.
Dude, what can I say? 5 o'clock somewhere.
I got a 9, a 6, and a 3-year-old I still have to do Hebrew and Judaic studies with today.
I'm with you, brother.
You should have invited him to this. This is Hebrew and Judaic studies.
Exactly.
Okay, the next is my father.
Hi, I'm Stuart Pilichowski. I'm Marie's father. I'm in the Eretz Yisrael, and I hope I can stay awake.
CR, you're up next. We're introducing ourselves.
CR is my turn?
Yeah.
Corey Richmond, Burgerfield, New Jersey. Close friend of Rabbi Pilichowski for many years.
Yeah.
Says you.
No, I think Corey's got I think I know Corey the longest. We were roommates in yeshiva together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Corey's
Sorry.
very-
We win.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, Mr. Herlick.
Aside from your father.
Right,
Actually,
right. See, obviously. And I think Mr. Herlick, who's the teacher of the year here from SAR. You have to turn your camera.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
Yeah,
Dan Herlick.
You stepped in late. We're introducing ourselves and telling us what kind of scotch or cigar we're smoking.
Hold on one second. I'm trying. Can everybody hear me for starters?
Yes.
You can. Fantastic. So it's a Macallan Grand Reserve, and it's a Cohiba.
See, this man does it right. Right.
Wow.
Okay. I am literally smoking something special.
Look at that.
This is an unbelievable cigar brand. Well, one of my students' fathers, this is like winning the lottery. One of my students' fathers comes over to me and says, "Oh, you smoke cigars? I like cigars. Everybody likes cigars." He says, "Well, I make cigars for a living." So this is his brand. I'll share the details. And I'm drinking I feel a little guilty not drinking Israeli whiskey, but I am drinking an Abu Nar. It's my favorite scotch. So
What a surprise.
yeah, it's very hard to break away from a good Abu Nar. So okay. So
Sam, I will make it out to California for that smoke one day.
where
Yehuda, you make it out here. I've got quite a few left, so don't worry about it.
yeah. So okay, so here's what I'd like to cover. It's a fascinating question, and especially fascinating with the crisis that we're in today. But whether or not a person has to put themselves in danger to save somebody else, right? It's a fascinating question. We have, and if again the source sheets are in the chat here if you want to look at them. But again, you don't have to. We have a fascinating pasuk, a verse in the Torah that says that lo tamod al dam re'echa. You cannot stand by while your brother's blood is being shed. Okay, that's a negative command. In other words, there's a prohibition. You see somebody in danger. There's a prohibition of just standing there and doing nothing. Right? So we're charged to save somebody. So that being said, how far does that prohibition go? If I'm going to be put in danger, does that mean that now I have to put myself in danger in order to save somebody, or am I violating that prohibition? Right. That's the essential question that we're gonna be running into tonight. That's the idea. So if you look, Maimonides, the Rambam, wrote a book called the Sefer HaMitzvos, which is he lists the 613 commands. He lists the 613 mitzvos, And when he talks about this prohibition, so he says as follows, and I'll read and translate. He says, "A mitzvah, the prohibition is to be lazy and stand by instead of saving a Jewish person. If we see that he's in danger of death or hefsed, or he's going to lose something, and we have the ability to save him, right? So it's not talking about somebody that we can't save, but if I have the ability to save somebody and I see them in danger, and so I'm not allowed to just stand by. So I see somebody drowning and I know how to swim and I can jump in and save them, so I have to save them. Right? So if a Gentile is planning on killing a Jew, and I can convince the Gentile not to do so, so to just stand by and not say anything, that's not allowed. Right, and this prohibition comes to prohibit just standing by and not saving him. And that's our verse that says you can't stand by while your brother's blood is being shed. It's not only you have to save somebody, but also if you withhold testimony, right? If you know testimony that can save somebody, and in his case, and you decide, I don't want to testify. So that classic mafia example, right? So I don't want to testify. I don't want to take the stand on behalf of somebody. That's a violation of this prohibition as well. Okay, and I'll skip a little in the sake of time here. One more example. We have a concept called a rodef in halacha. A rodef is where one person is trying to kill another person. I'm allowed to save that person by taking the life of what we call the rodef, the chaser, right? The person that's trying to kill somebody, I'm allowed to take his life. So if I see somebody trying to kill somebody else, and I stand by and don't stop him and don't take action to stop him, and so then that's a violation of this prohibition also. I might be lazy or I might be hesitant to do so because I don't want to kill somebody, right? If the only way to stop this rodef is by killing him, and so I might say I don't want to kill him, right? I don't want to take that step. That's a little too far for me. But then you'd be violating this prohibition. You can't just stand by.
Rabbi, do you need to have context, no context for that situation, right? Like, as you know, with students, the first one hits, the second one gets in trouble. So you're viewing a situation, you think you know what's going on, you have an obligation to potentially kill the rodef, but what if you're wrong? So where's your obligation lie in terms of finding the truth before action?
And so ideally, you're supposed to warn the rodef, right? Ideally, you're supposed to say, listen, you have to stop. And then if the warning doesn't help, ideally, you're supposed to, we call shoot the gun, shoot him in the leg, shoot him in the arm, that's ideally, it's a little like it's movie-esque, you talk to anybody that does this for a living.
Or Joe Biden off of his porch shooting off his shotgun.
Oh no, you can't bring up that. No, oh God, you're opening up.
What about if
sorry, wait.
What about if it's Dick
I didn't say anything. I did not say anything.
What if Dick Cheney's involved in this?
Biden, he said. It's somebody else completely.
No. What about Dick Cheney? What happens if Dick Cheney's involved?
I'll be right back.
Oh, John.
I'm sorry. It was just a flipping joke. Hey.
Oh no, here we go. Oh God. Well,
he's trying to
Joe Biden for president in 1988.
It literally works for Vice President Biden.
Was that Sam? Was that the plagiarism campaign?
For the record, I thought he got crucified, no pun intended, on this conversation. I think that's the right thing to do. I carry a gun, and I think you should be able to fire a warning shot. Like that seems to make sense. So I wasn't mocking Joe. I was suggesting that.
I will tell you that I get mocked a lot. It's all right.
Sure. I'm sure you do. Anyone in politics. Yeah. Just so you know, for the record, I used to run Glenn Beck's company, so I know the game.
Oh, okay.
All right, you're back, Ori.
Okay.
How do we get?
Now I'm thinking of not leaving.
Uri, I need you to be great. Please be great. I need to make the Shiurim great. Okay. So please, you're doing a fantastic job, an amazing job.
Okay.
So keep going.
Tell us who's behind you, Manuel.
No one. Oh, the pool.
Invite them.
The pool. They're cleaning the pool. Hey, Tom. Say hi to my friends.
Oh
It's
God.
Tom.
Only took us 10 minutes to get completely sidetracked. Okay.
Sorry.
So in any case,
So
yeah.
so back to my question though, Rabbi. So in
Yeah.
today's society where that's illegal, right, to fire a warning shot, how would you, practically speaking, right, out of the academic of it, how do you deal with theoretically with that situation?
So I think that halacha is going to clash with certain state laws, But as a wise man once told me, better be judged by 12 than buried by 12. So that's follow halacha, and then worry, get a good lawyer, I guess. If you're saving somebody's life,
Right.
that's what
Okay.
you got to save somebody's life. But context is definitely important, and also I think it pays whenever we mention the word road day for the concept. It pays to mention the fact that we shouldn't be too quick to jump to call people a road day unless they're actually chasing somebody to kill them. Right? A lot of time we got in a lot of trouble. That was the problem with the assassination of Prime Minister Rabin, was that somebody off the cuff mentioned that he was a road date for the Oslo Accords, and then somebody, he took it too seriously, the assassin, and that's a big problem. That's a huge problem. So I think it behooves us to mention the fact that a road date is only somebody who's immediately in the situation about to kill somebody. Right? That's we'll leave it at that. And if you're ever curious about that, then ask somebody bigger. So okay.
Bye.
Stay safe, Sam. So okay, so that's the prohibition. Okay, so we've gotten to the prohibition of lo saman adam reacha. Now we understand it, and let's move on. This is the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef is the author of the Shulchan Aruch of Yosef Cairo, who lived in the 1600s in Sfat in Israel. So he wrote three big works. He wrote the Beis Yosef, the Kesef Mishnah, and the Shulchan Aruch. And this is the Beis Yosef. This is a commentary on the Torah. So the Torah talks about at the very end of his work. He talks about the need to save people. And the Beis Yosef comments there. He says, "Yerushalmi Masik, afilu hachnis atzma v'safik sakana chayav." Right, and he says, even if you have to put yourself in a suffix, in a doubtful situation where you might be in danger. Now, he doesn't go so far as to say that if you're going to put yourself in danger, then you have to go ahead and save the person. Rather, he says that if it's a doubt whether you'll be in danger, then you still have to go ahead and save them. What seems to be, what everybody agrees, is that if you're for sure going to put yourself in danger, right? Imagine somebody's drowning and you don't know how to swim, right? So then jumping into the water where this is for sure going to be dangerous for you to save somebody else is drowning, that you're not obligated to do, right? You wouldn't be violating lo saman adam reacha if you don't jump in. Okay, that's that would be the.
If you don't know how to swim, you'd probably be prohibited from jumping in because you're going to put your own life in danger.
Right. So right. Okay. Could be. Yeah. That could be. He says Venira shatam b'pnei shahala v'adai v'hu suffix. So what's the reason that you wouldn't have to put yourself in a suffix sakana, in a dangerous in a maybe dangerous position, right? In a doubtful dangerous position, because here, right, this person is a for sure in danger, right? And right, sorry, this person's not for sure, right? Suffix, and you're for sure going to be putting yourself in danger. So therefore, we wouldn't do that, right? As there's doubt versus the for sure, we go with the we're always going to stay on the for sure. So you don't have to put yourself in danger to do that. Okay. The story comes from a case where somebody was kidnapped. If you look in the Yerushalmi here, so Ravisi, it's cited Mishputa. So Ravisi was kidnapped, and Rabbi Yochanan said that let him be. And Rav Shimon ben Lakish said, "I'm going to go, and if I die, I die." Right. So in other words, he wasn't sure he was going to be in danger. Now the person that's kidnapped is for sure in danger, right? And he goes ahead and says, "I'm going to go ahead and save him." And he was able to save him in the end, right? He didn't actually. This wasn't like a case where a SWAT team came in, or this wasn't like special forces came in to save him. He talked the kidnappers out of causing any danger, right? and that's how he was able. So he put himself in a doubtful situation, right? And this other person was for sure. So therefore, he has to put himself in that situation. He's obligated because he's only in a suffix. He's not sure he's going to be in a dangerous position. Everybody following that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So that's the idea. So if it's only going to be you're only in a suffix, you're only going to be doubtful. Maybe the kidnappers will attack you also. Maybe they won't. But the person being kidnapped is for sure going to be is for sure in danger. So you have to try your best to try to save him because you're not in danger here at this point. That's where we get this from. Okay. Good.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How does this apply to, I know like here in the US, they've just given us a call to go and donate blood. I'm not sure that's so safe, but how does that relate to this teaching?
So I don't know. So we're going to see, let's hold off and we'll see where Moshe Feinstein is going to talk about organ transplant, which I think is more than giving blood, because giving blood isn't, shouldn't be dangerous, right? It's pretty safe. But organ transplant is going to be a bigger question that we're going to see. Chaim puts in the chat, he did it to me privately. I can say this out loud. Chaim, give me a thumbs up if I can say this. Yeah, okay. So he asked, isn't Reish Lakish a special example as he was a trained warrior or gladiator? I didn't know that he was it's not Reish Lakish. It is Reish Lakish. I didn't, because he used to be, right, Reish Lakish is a good call. Right, Reish Lakish used to be like the mafia boss, right? So I don't know if he was, maybe he had experience. So it's interesting. I've never heard anybody say that. It's an interesting, thing to bring up. But even if you are, Reish Lakish famously was this Baal Shuva who was like the greatest evil person in the world. Met Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan said that if you do tshuva, I'll let you marry my good-looking sister. And that was essentially the deal of the lifetime for him. He took it and changed his whole life around and became a chavrusa with Rabbi Yochanan, became one of the giants of the Jewish people. So Chaim's question is maybe he was an exception to the rule. Right? It seems like we're definitely, no one's saying that. It definitely seems like people are learning from him that you should be able to do this. You should put yourself in a suffix. Okay.
I gotta run, but I'll thank you, Rabbi Uri.
Good to see you, Yuda. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay.
Be good.
Okay. So the Mishnah Berurah, interesting. The Mishnah Berurah was the Chavetz Chaim. He only lived about 120 years ago. He died right before the Holocaust. He lived in Poland, in Radin, Poland, and which would be Russia today. But he said as follows. He said, "Im yesh sakana la'matzil." This is source number 5 if you're following along. Im yesh sakana la'matzil ein mechuyev. Right. So he says that if there's any danger to the person that's going to be saving somebody, so then he's not obligated to go ahead and try to save him. The chayav kodem l'chayei chavero, because his life takes precedence over his friend's life. Right. That's a common principle that we have. That if my life is in danger and your life is in danger, right? So my life comes first. The classic example is Rabbi Akiva's teaching, where 2 people have 1 jug of water in the desert. If both of them drink, they both die. If only one of them drinks, then that person lives. So you say Chayecha Kodmin, my life comes first. So here, the Chavetz Chaim takes that approach and applies it to our case. Feel suffix sakana nami adif. He says even if it's just a doubt, which is literally our case. So then 2, right? That's better. Right? So that's right. I have to. That still takes precedence, even if it's just a doubt whether I'll be in danger. But he gives a warning. This isn't really his words. This is somebody that came a couple hundred years before him that he's quoting, and he says a person has to take a real calculation. They have to really weigh the factors here and weigh the reality of the situation. So he says, "Im yesh bo suffix sakana," right? He says, if there really is a doubt to him, a lot of times we're very easy. We say, "Well, I'm not sure. Maybe I would put myself in. It is dangerous for me," when it's really not so dangerous, right? So a person's very easy to be reluctant to go ahead and save somebody else because they're hesitant because they're scared, right? But there's no real danger, so they create a danger in their minds. So he says you have to really think it through. If it's a prohibition that you'd be violating the Torah, we don't go ahead and just say we can violate prohibitions of the Torah. So that's very you have to really be careful. Well, the dactic biyoter, And then he gives a warning. And again, this isn't the Chavetz Chaim's words, but he's quoting them. That if somebody is too careful with their own life, right? They're too careful and they say, "Oh, I have to be very, I can't go near anything." Be very, very careful. So then in the end, danger is going to come to them, like a very like type of interesting warning, right? He says that if you're too careful and you're sort of making this stuff up, and there's no real danger, so then in the end, you're going to be the one that finds themselves in danger. Okay, so that's how the Mishnah Berurah, who's really like our foremost, I would say, halachic decider in the last 150 years. So he says that in this case, he disagrees with the Beis Yosef, and he says that you don't have to put yourself in a dangerous position, even if it's only a doubt whether you'll be in danger or not. Right? So if somebody else is for sure in danger and you're worried, maybe I'll be in danger, maybe I won't be in danger, you have to be careful, and you don't have to go ahead and save them. Okay. Rav Moshe Feinstein was the foremost, and probably, I don't know if anybody will ever take over, but the foremost halachic decider in America. He died in 1986. He came in from Europe and before the Holocaust, and he lived in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and was without a doubt, there's nobody that's looked upon in an American rabbinic life as a greater halachic decider than him. And he says as follows. It's a very long responsa that he has. He has about 9 volumes of a responsa that he wrote to people, and this is very long. I'm just going to quote 2 interesting parts of it. He says, "Ubedavar im yesh chiyuv la'acher lach toch evaro b'shvil atzos nefesh shachavero kemen shepligi rebusa b'zeh ein lechayev." So he says, do I have to cut off one of my limbs? This would be organ transplant, right? So kidney, liver, right, bone marrow. So do I have to do that to save my friend's life, right? So he says that since there's a debate among the rabbis about whether or not you have to put yourself in a suffix, in a doubtful position of danger, you don't have to, right? So nobody can go to you and say, listen, you're a match for this person. You better give the transplant. He says, no one can tell you that. You don't have to. And if somebody would come to you and say, but you'd be violating lo tamar al dam re'echa, they're standing by while your brother's blood is being shed because you know this person needs the transplant. You know you're able to save them, and by just standing there and not doing it, so then you're gonna ending that person's life. So then you don't have to. And at that point, you're not obligated. That's Rav Moshe.
So Rabbi, on that last point, is it just completely up to you, or is there under a different rubric should you do organ transplants, right? Or is it just how you feel about the situation or the person or whatever variable you're taking into consideration?
Well, I think you're asking a different question. You're asking should you or should you not. I think Rav Moshe here is just dealing. That's a heavy question. I think it's a little past what we're dealing with here.
Okay, that's fine.
Rav Moshe is just asking the question of would you be obligated?
Do you have to? Right. Accept it.
And he says you don't have to because again, it's not a for sure that you're putting yourself in danger, right? There's thousands of people do organ transplants every year, and right, and they're fine, but you're definitely not obligated to. That's what he's saying.
Sorry, just a derivative of that. How much do you have to take into account the definitive ability to affect saving the other person's life, right? So in organ transplant, I know it's the wrong example because you've already given kind of the general guideline, but even though you're a good donor, doesn't mean that they're going to be able to accept your kidney, right? Things happen. So does that impact the halachic framework?
Manuel, go ahead. You want to say something?
No, why don't you answer that question? Then I'll come back. I wanted to ask something in relation to what Jonathan just said, but go ahead and answer that, and then I'll ask my question.
Okay, I would say, Chaim, I see your comment also. I would say like this. I'd say that's always the situation. In other words, if I see somebody drowning, right? So I assume I'm a good swimmer. I assume I'm going to jump in. I'm going to be able to save him, but that's not necessarily true. There could be a strong current, right? And no matter how hard I try, I'm not going to be able to save him. So I think there's never a guarantee that you're going to be able to save the person. In the case of the Yerushalmi of the Reish Lakish, that he went to go talk to the kidnappers, so he didn't know for sure he'd be successful, right? He says, I'm going to go, and I'm either going to be able to save him or I'm going to die, right? So he knew ahead of time that he might not be successful, and he did it anyway. Manuel?
So going back to the whole issue of the uncertainty. Obviously, when Rabbi Feinstein wrote this, medicine had not advanced to where it is today. How would it be interpreted today, where medicine is so advanced, where if it's a match for a kidney donor, the risk to the donor, it's so minimized so long as the doctors approve the procedure? At one point, does medical advancement come into play in all these discussions?
I think yeah, for sure, it definitely would. The question is there ever a point where you could say that organ donation does not put you in maybe some sort of danger, right? So it then becomes a question of,
but life is, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I totally understand. I mean, yeah, anybody that goes under for any type of procedure is at risk, right? That's a given. But there is an element of risk here. There's some real life and death decisions that are made every day where this principle is applied, right? I mean, this is not an abstract. Family member needs a kidney, they find a match, the donor is in perfect health, the attending physicians see no risk in the donor granting the donating the kidney, etc. There's obviously always the underlying risk, but at one point, does the halachic obligation become even further enhanced because of the fact that there's more medical certainty?
It's a great question, and I think that goes back, and it's also Chaim's point here. It's a great question of Chaim says that the Chavetz Chaim sounds like he says don't overthink it. I think you have to make a decision. So I think that this doubt about whether you're putting yourself in danger is somewhat subjective. And that's the Chavetz Chaim's warning. Don't look at something that's a small, tiny risk and say, now I might be putting myself in danger, so I'm exempt from violating this prohibition. I still wouldn't be.
Let's use a current time, a current moment in time situation, right? All these healthcare workers that are literally putting themselves in danger every day. Do they have an halachic obligation to put, or let me put it this way, do they have an halachic permission to not fulfill their obligations because they are putting themselves in danger every day?
So that's ultimately the question, right? That's why this topic is so relevant and so attractive to us, because there's literally hundreds of thousands of people around the world who are putting themselves in in this case of, I might get sick, I might not get sick, right? So it would clearly seem from what we see from the Chavetz Chaim and we see from Rabbi Feinstein that there's no way you could say that this person would have to do this, right?
So do the statistics not matter? Like if there's a 20% risk versus a 1% risk?
So I think it does, and I think that's the Chavetz Chaim's point, where going back to when he's quoting the Pischei Tshuva, I think that's his point, that don't be so don't sit there and say to yourself, well, there's a small chance, so therefore I won't be violating the prohibition.
Yeah, but in this case, let's talk about the coronavirus situation, right? The percentages for those of us sitting around this shiur are very, very different than the nurse that's treating the patients today. The people that are administering
that, but
their risk is exponentially higher than ours.
Certainly, that's infection, not mortality.
Well, but
they're related, of course.
But if the mortality rate, let's say the mortality rate is 3% on a global basis, right? But if you're putting yourself at a higher risk of infection,
of course,
then you're putting yourself immediately at a higher rate of mortality.
Right. My only point is, if mortality was 20% versus 1%, that's also different. So agreed. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just clarifying the distinction.
Right. Yeah. And again, I think it all comes back down to what the Chavetz Chaim is saying in terms of don't overthink this, as to quote Chaim over here. Don't overthink this, and don't say to yourself, that small percentage exempts me from having to do anything. Look, in any case of somebody else's life in danger and you're going to save them, it's very rare to find a case where you wouldn't be putting yourself at some sort of risk, right? I mean, it's hard to a negotiation over kidnapping might be, if you're comfortable.
Yeah, but I also see this in the reverse, right? And this is something that we miss all the time, and it's the fact that we also have an obligation to not put people at risk in a negligent way, right? So let me give you an example. And this is also real. This is something that I'm actually struggling with right now, and I'm kind of pissed because this is where the law is actually making it more difficult for us to contain the situation, right? So we have, every day they announce the new cases, right? Like, somebody, or even, my company or anybody's company sends an email out saying that, 3 people in such location tested positive for coronavirus, but they can't tell me who it is. I'm like, no, tell me who it is so that I know if I came into contact with them, right? So aren't they obligated to tell me who those people are so that I can then take the precautions of, okay, I did come into close contact with these people, I should self-quarantine myself because I'm at a higher risk.
So I think there's a middle ground. I don't know what's going on in America with this stuff, but I can tell you in Israel, what they do is they publish minute by minute where the people were, and they say that if you were in this spot, then you have to quarantine yourself.
When you have the Shin Bet, looking at your phones, it's easy.
Well, it's true, but that's the what's called that's the enforcement aspect of it. In other words, before you get a text message like my friends get this, they get a text message on their phones that say, hey, you were near this person, you have to go into quarantine. You're like, wait a minute, how did how'd you get my number? How'd you know where I was? And we're all Palestinian terrorists today, so that's but before
we knew you were. We know you're a right-wing terrorist. I've heard Jill Jacobs call you that. So
Rav Uri, I have a question. If I would think that a healthcare worker has almost the same obligation to providing health care that a soldier has to go into battle. It's easy to join the army when there's no war, but when something breaks out, you can't just go AWOL. Well, now we have a serious situation in the hospitals. Isn't there an obligation, even beyond what halacha is, for these healthcare workers to now maybe more than ever to step up and say, this is my obligation?
All right, so halacha treats a soldier. That's something that somebody who we're going to see soon, but we're not going to see his words on this. The Minchas Chinuch, he deals with that a lot, and seemingly puts a soldier in a different category, where a soldier is, they don't make the equation between a soldier and a healthcare worker, but I don't know if a healthcare worker signs up and says, I'm willing to put my life at risk. I think the healthcare worker, when they get into healthcare, they're saying I'm willing to help people, not necessarily going to put my life at risk, which is different than a soldier whose job by definition is every single day putting their life at risk, right?
And if let's say you're a nurse in the hospital, do you say, okay, I'm going to be a nurse, but I'm only going to be a nurse in the pediatrics ward with I don't know.
I'll be a podiatrist.
Exactly.
But we're talking about. In the world of healthcare, not every disease is a communicable disease. Right now,
if you get into the healthcare profession, can you say I'm a healthcare provider until it becomes dangerous for me? I can't imagine that somebody would say no, that's not true. As soon as you sign up for healthcare, you should know that you're putting yourself at risk, and you must put yourself at risk. I don't know. It seems I hear the point. I just don't think it's true. I just don't I don't see that as true. I think it's different than a soldier. I think it's somebody. If a soldier said, "Whoa, now the bullets are flying, I'm out of here," I think that's ridiculous.
I guess because I've heard the analogy several times on various programs where officials have said we're at war now, and I know it's only an analogy, but it's an apt one.
Well, unless the soldier is French, then he will start surrendering. Do
we have any French people we just insulted?
Okay. I insulted the French. I have historical fact to prove it.
Yeah, great. Okay, so moving on here. Okay, So now we're gonna move on to a different part of the shiur, which is more analytical and more into the mechanics of the law as opposed to the different manifestations of the law. Okay, so and this goes back to Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe says, "Lofi atam shekatavti delav delo tamar odam re'echa hu b'din kol alavim." So Rav Moshe says that this prohibition of standing by while your brother's blood is being shed is just like all other prohibitions of the Torah. And therefore, ein l'chayev adam lekanes b'safek sakana l'hatzalas chavero mivadai sakana. And just like any other prohibition of the Torah, we're not commanded to put ourselves in danger not to violate it, right? So if a person puts a gun to my head and says, "I might kill you, I might not kill you," if you don't speak gossip about somebody, right? Which is the first part of this verse. So no one's going to say that you should. You have to put yourself in danger at that point, right? To avoid violating a prohibition of the Torah, right? So there's no such concept as that. The halay not so me'averas kol halavim v'adei lo rak she'en tzarich al shegam aser lachnis atzmo l'safek sakana da'adarabba hu mechalon Shabbos afafu l'safek sakana. So he says that not only that, but when it comes to other prohibitions in the Torah, we would say it's forbidden for you to put yourself in even in a slight chance of danger to avoid violating the prohibition. And he quotes the idea of Shabbat. On Shabbat, if we have even just a slight notion that life might be at risk here, we violate Shabbat. And so no one's going to sit there and say that, well, when it comes to Shabbat, you should really calculate, is there really a large prohibition? Is there a large danger to life? Is there not a large danger to life? Even if it's just a slight idea that there might be a danger to life, we violate Shabbat, no problem. So what's the difference between Shabbat and lo tamar adam re'echa? Right? They're not standing by while your brother's blood is being shed. They're just prohibitions of the Torah. They're two prohibitions of the Torah. So if I'm not going to put myself in danger in order not to violate Shabbat, why would I put myself in danger not to violate, don't stand by while your brother's blood is being shed?
Ben adam lechavero.
So what?
So there's a fundamental difference. Within Shabbos, it's called between me and God trying to figure out the right path. With someone else whose life's in danger, I can potentially affect it.
Yeah, but I don't know if anybody's gonna, but in other words, all we're saying is they're both prohibitions, right? And it doesn't seem like there's any reason to differentiate them. He says, when he goes on, he says, so there's no reason to put yourself even in a slight chance of risk in order to save your friend's life. Right, so that's how Moshe sums up here. Okay, then going on in source number 7. Now we're going to get real into the mechanics of the halacha. Okay, this is the real analytical stuff. The Minchas Chinuch. The Minchas Chinuch is a commentary on a sefer called the Sefer Chinuch, and he really delves down. He's one of the first people to really practice a learning style called Lumdus, which is truly analytical. To a point of it's almost like taking apart the mechanics of the halacha. And he says as follows. So follow along, because this is a heavy thinking time. He says will be di guf din hagemara tzarchiyun. So he says this idea that you have to put yourself in danger is very difficult to understand. Du rak lav, right? It's just like Rav Moshe. He predated Rav Moshe, but he says it's just a prohibition in Torah. Not only that, we have two types of prohibitions in the Torah. Okay, we have a prohibition in the Torah where you do something to violate the prohibition, and then you have a violation of the Torah where you don't actually do an action. So when we don't do an action to violate the Torah, that's less severe than when you actually do an action to violate the Torah. Okay, so here, lo samar adam re'echa is saying you're not doing anything. You're just standing by while somebody else is drowning. So here you're not actively violating the Torah, right? That's, he says, he says, right? So why would you put yourself in even a slight risk of danger if you're not going to be actually doing something to violate the Torah? You're just standing by while the person's in trouble. And it says you should live by the laws of the Torah, right? So it says, and here, right? So if I put myself in danger, could be I'll be violating this idea of living with the mitzvahs of the Torah, Upikuach nefesh docha kol. And saving a life is pushes off every mitzvah in the Torah. So here, right, I'm saving my own life. Why would I put my life in at risk here? Right? So he says, he quotes a case in the Gemara. Right? This is a fascinating case in the Gemara where you have a case where a person puts a gun to your head and says that I'm going to, if he puts a gun to your head and gives you another gun and says, I'm going to shoot you in the head unless you shoot that person, right? So then you're not allowed to shoot that person, right? You have to die. But what happens if they put a gun to my head and say, you can't fight back. If you fight back, we're going to shoot you. But you have to allow us to do whatever we want with your body. And they take you and they're going to throw you off a cliff or a building, and you're going to fall on somebody else. You know you're going to kill them, but you'll survive. So in that case, am I allowed to have them use my body to kill somebody else? Or do I have to then say, I'd rather you shoot me? Right? So in that case, because you're not actively doing something, you're just allowing them to use you as a vehicle to kill somebody else, you don't have to take the bullet. You're allowed to use them. What's the difference between that case and where you pull the trigger to kill somebody else? You're not actively doing anything. You're just allowing them to use you. And since you're not doing anything, so then there's no problem. And that's what he says here. Right? He says, at this point, you're not actively doing anything. You're just standing by while somebody else does something. Right? So he says, he says, he says, hey, because of those calculations, he doesn't understand the Yerushalmi that tells us that we do have to put ourselves at risk for a slight at risk, in the suffix, in a slight risk, in order to save somebody else. Right? That's he says he doesn't understand it, and he disagrees with the Yerushalmi, right? As we see the Chavetz Chaim does and Ramosha did as well. Okay, but that's the mechanics of it, of where he goes through the other precedents in the Torah and says that because here in this case you're not actively violating anything, so since you're not actively violating anything, you don't have to put yourself at risk. Okay, is that clear to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so then comes the question that the Minchas Chinuch explains to us very well why you would not have to risk your life. Right? That we understand. But what's the svara? What's the explanation that we can give to explain the Yerushalmi that says that you do have to put yourself at risk? We've built a great argument here as to why you don't have to put yourself at risk to save somebody else, right? But what's the argument the other way? So nobody really comes to defend the Yerushalmi so much, right? Everybody comes to argue against the Yerushalmi. In fact, they say that if you look, the Shulchan Aruch, which is our great halachic body, so Shulchan Aruch takes the way that Rav Yosef Karo came to his decisions was he really took a survey of three great rabbis, the Rambam Maimonides, somebody named the Rif who predated the Rambam, and the Rush who came after the Rambam. And he takes the three of them, and generally in any single debate over an issue, two of them will fall on one side and one of them will fall on the other, or all three of them will agree. Right? That's how it usually works out. So whenever there's a 2 versus 1 case, the Shulchan Aruch always decides by the 2 versus the 1. That's how he comes to his calculation. He explains this. It's not always true, but for the 90% of the cases in halacha, that's how the Shulchan Aruch came to the decision. But in this case, the Rambam, the Rush, and the Rif, none of them quote this Yerushalmi as the halacha. And they all omit the Yerushalmi. They don't bring it up. They don't talk about it. And we have a concept in halacha that when one of the great rabbis doesn't say something, it's not that they forgot or it's purposefully they omitted it. And because they purposefully omitted it, they're telling us that this is not the way we look at the halacha. So by the fact that the three of them didn't bring this, that's why the Shulchan Aruch never mentioned it, right? This is not found in the Shulchan Aruch, this halacha that you have to put yourself in danger, even though the author of the Shulchan Aruch clearly was aware of this Yerushalmi because the same author quoted it. He's the Beit Yosef, so he's the one that quoted it in his commentary to the Torah, and he quotes it in his commentary to the Rambam. But then when it comes down to writing down what the halacha is, he leaves it out. Very easily, he leaves it. It's clear why he leaves it out, because the three great rabbis, the Rush, the Rambam, and the Rif, never brought it as in their halachic decisions. Okay, so we've clearly brought up all the reasons. We've built a case why you should not have to put yourself in danger. Let's now understand why you would have to. And this is my own idea. And I'm no one great, but I think that there's a strange word that the Rambam uses when he talks about this idea of not standing by while your brother's blood is being shed. He uses a very strange word here. Okay, and it's very, very odd. And focusing on that one word, I think it tells us a whole different look at this prohibition of not standing by while your brother's blood is being shed. Listen to what the Rambam says. Listen, you have to listen carefully with a sensitive ear to what he says. He says, "Kol hayachol lahatzil v'lo hitzil." Anybody that can save somebody and doesn't save them, over lo saman al dam re'echa. He violates this prohibition of standing by while your brother's blood is being shed. V'chein haroes chaver tovei bayam. See somebody drowning in the sea. Or listin bayim alav, or he watches as robbers or bandits are approaching him to rob him. Or a wild animal is chasing him. And he can save him himself. Or he can hire people, right? He can hire mercenaries to save the guy, and he doesn't, right? So or he hears people that are they're what's the word? Starts with a C. I'm drawing a blank here. They're conspiring. Thank you. They're conspiring to harm somebody, right? Oh, tomnim lo pach v'lo gala ozen chaver avodi, and he doesn't tell his friend, hey, look, there's this conspiracy against you. You got to watch out. You got to watch your back. He doesn't tell him. Oh, sheyilda begoyo ba'anas shekoba chavero b'yachol lefaiso b'gla chavero haser meshibo v'lo saiso, or he's able to talk people out of doing this danger to the person that they're planning on attacking. Now, here's the point. Listen to this. Here we go. The chol chayotze b'dvar melu, and all of these types of cases, ha'osa osam, somebody that does this over lo saman al dam re'echa, he violates the prohibition of standing by while your brother's blood is being shed. Anybody catch what the Rambam said that's different? So the Minchas Chinuch's whole point, right? The Minchas Chinuch's whole point here as to why the person wouldn't have to put themselves in danger, and Ramosha quotes it also, is because when you violate this prohibition of not standing by while your brother's blood is being shed, what you're doing is you're not actually doing anything. You're just standing by. And that's a lower level type of violation of the Torah. If you just stand by and you're not actually doing anything, that's not as heavy, it's not as severe a violation of the Torah as if you go ahead and did something, right? Again, in the case that the Minchas Chinuch quoted was if somebody allows me to have my body thrown on somebody, that's not considered that I'm killing them. I'm just standing there, they're throwing me on top of somebody. I don't have to give up my life in order to stop that because I'm not doing something. Let me read the Rambam again for you. Not the whole thing, don't worry. But right after he says that if you don't save somebody, he says ha'ose osam, if you do this over lo sama adam re'echa, right? If you don't save them, you violated the prohibition of lo sama adam re'echa. So listen to what the word that he uses that throws me is he uses the word ose. If he does these, it does what? It's that he hasn't done anything, right? That's the Minchas Chinuch's entire point. It's the fact that when
maybe the point of the Rambam is that when you don't do something that speaks so loudly that it can be just as effective or just as reprehensible as when you do an action.
I think
the omission. Is the act of omission.
But I think that the Rambam is saying, he's going further. He's saying the act of omission is actually an act of commission. He's saying that you're not...
Because you willingly didn't do something.
And willingly not doing something is itself doing something. That's
right. We know that from modern Jewish history. You don't have to look further. The Genovese case in Queens, when everybody saw a woman being raped and no one picked up the phone to call the police. That's greater than.
So that I think the Rambam, I think that the Minchas Chinuch would look at that case and say, listen, it's not that they did something, it's that they didn't do something, and that not doing something is not as severe as doing something. But the Rambam looks at this differently. The Rambam says, no, by you're actively, by not doing something, you're actually doing something. That's an actual violation of Torah, and it's an act. The act of, as Manuel said, the act of omission is actually an act of commission. And therefore, the calculations of the Minchas Chinuch and everybody else that says that this lo saman al dam reyecha, where you're standing by while your brother's blood is being shed, and you're not actively trying to save them, is actually an action, and is just as severe as violating other things in the Torah.
Yeah, I mean, but you just said something that's standing by while somebody. So to stand by is to choose to stand by. So you are choosing at that point. So is the choice, the action, I think that the action that Rambam is condemning is the choice to stand by.
For sure, but he sees that choice as more than just a mental exercise.
Of course, because it is. It is more than just a mental exercise.
Well, the Minchas Chinuch
because we should reflexively want to help.
Well, we definitely want to help. The question now is,
but let me ask you a question. So let's.
It should almost be that it is our simple first reaction to help, and the decision we're making is to not.
But let's take it a step further. But let's step it a step further. I mean, we're talking in hypotheticals here, but there's also human emotion and human reaction that takes place, right? So if I'm seeing that somebody has a gun, right, it has it pointed or carries a knife and has it, is going after somebody, right? There's the element of shock and fear, and at one point, does the fact that you are emotionally immobilized makes you not rationally choose not to do something, but just out of pure state of shock or emotion, be paralyzed and not do something.
Oh, that's between you and God. That's why we say that God is bochein levavo.
No, but that is, I mean, but that is true in all these cases, right? So if you see he's drowning and you're yelling for the lifeguard and you're screaming for the lifeguard doesn't come in, but you see that it's a tough diet and you know that you don't have, I mean, you're just paralyzed by fear. It's not that you want to do something, but your own emotions are paralyzing you from doing something.
So I think that's one case, but I think here we're dealing with something else. Here we're dealing with a case where it's a very clear choice. I'm the nurse. There's the virus going around.
That's a different. Okay, now you're changing it.
No, I'm saying, but that's the case that we're dealing with. The cases where you have to make
the current situation of the nurses. Of course, yeah. I mean,
right,
yeah, but that's
our question, right? Our question is the nurse is not for sure going to be putting themselves in danger, right? It's not a guarantee. There's steps that they're taking to precautions that they're taking, but there is a chance that the nurse is going to.
Yeah, no, that's different.
Well, yeah, you can go back to your example before of live organ donation. If you take a survey of responsive literature from, let's say, the 1960s, when live organ donation was dangerous, so halacha said you may not even be permitted to do it. And if you take that halachic literature for present day, where the percentage of danger is so low, halacha seems to shy away from making it an obligation to perform a live organ donation. But again, you don't have to go be a healthcare worker. The average person just won't take that leap and make a live organ donation. And halacha doesn't obligate you to. Why? I don't know.
Yeah, so Manuel, I think taking my father's point in stride here, I think that it's all that we're not dealing with a case where it's in the moment and you're paralyzed because of the shock in your emotions. I think we're talking about somebody where somebody sits there and says, I have a couple hours to think about this. I have days to think about this. What do I want to do?
That's a different scenario. That I understand.
And I think that's the scenario that we're dealing with here. You know, where you're able to
Yeah,
say
that's the difference.
and you're taking the calculation: do I put myself in danger or not? Right. So
Yeah.
now that's where the Chavetz Chaim comes along and says, if there's you got to really make sure that there's an actual danger. You have to think that through. And if there's an actual danger, then fine. And if there's not, then don't pretend that there is. But here, so just to sum up here, we have this is the debate, right? The debate is, do you put yourself in danger? Do you not? And I think that, in my perspective, what the debate comes down to is how you understand this prohibition of not standing by while your brother's blood is being shed. If you look at this prohibition as passive, a passive prohibition, right, where you're just standing by, so then you wouldn't put yourself in danger because it's not that severe of a violation of the Torah. But if you look at this as the Rambam does, so then it's an actual violation. You're actually doing something. Now, I just have to put one caveat on my explanation here. I'm using the Rambam to give an explanation for a position that the Rambam clearly disagreed with because he left it out. Just for understanding there, to be 100% honest. But I think I have ground to stand on, because even if the Rambam himself didn't quote this halacha, I think that the idea and concept exists, and that's what we're trying to understand, the conceptual understanding of the law. So I think I have ground to stand on with it. That's all I got, folks.
Yasher Koach.
Nicely done, Rabbi.
Thank you, Yasher Koach.
Well,
Thank you.
Look, I got to tell you, I'm hoping with great hope that we come up with a solution to this coronavirus, and we're back to having live cigar Shiurim as soon as we can with a crowd of people. But
you know that I was supposed to be in Israel this week.
I know. It's nuts, yeah. A few of our lives have been upended.
Oh man,
I'm sitting outside for the first time in many days, and seeing my family for the first time in many days, and so we're each of us is feeling it in our own ways. But I'm hoping. But if in this lasts for a long time, I'd love to do this on a weekly basis. It would be great if we did this.
Well, I'm looking forward to
it. Make it work.
Wow.
Yeah, we can make it work. Thank you, Uri. I'm sure we're going to be able to do it.
Rabbi, can you stay on a weekly basis? I have a question for you.
6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rabbi, can you stay on for a minute? I have a question for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye-bye. Good morning, Johanna.
Jonathan, we still need to grab lunch one of these days, okay?
Anytime. You have a nice pool. I'm happy to come hang out in your pool.
No. Guys, I don't think you're understanding what social distancing is.
6 feet. 6 feet is social distance.
6 feet under. You got to stay in your own house. You don't leave your house.
No, we are not under quarantine. That's only you.
By the way,
that's only the reactionary right-wing government of Israel. Oh no, that's it's the reactionary
I just got to tell you,
racist government of Israel.
Hebrew, if you understand Hebrew, you have to listen to Bibi's speech tonight. It is probably the most inspiring speech an Israeli prime minister has given in 30, 40 years.
I'm sure they'll have it. Pretty soon and put it on YouTube or something.
I hope so.
He always does that. The prime minister's office always posts his speeches in his Facebook page or something with.
I really hope he says it.
The dubbing.
I hope that he recognizes the strength of his words. I mean, it was unreal, absolutely unreal. He was speaking with.
So Benny Gantz was on TV today?
I don't know. Who cares? The guy's slowly.
Shalom Aleichem, everybody.
The guy is slowly making himself more and more irrelevant as time goes on. Yeah, he's grasping at straws now.
Take it easy, guys.
He's done.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Good seeing everybody. Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
So, question for you. So I did the Aguda, and I don't know if it was the OU, suggested a half-day fast today.
Good. I was wondering why that hasn't happened.
So, which I did, and they're now suggesting saying Yom Kippur Katan as part of Mincha. I think that we're in an absolute panic for very little reason. I'm no expert. I think there's a camp of experts who I'm ascribing to. do I follow call it the Rabbanut because they're the Rabbanut, even if I think they're completely misguided and wrong on all this? Or do I follow the science that I'm following? And for clarity, we are, doing social distance. We are quarantining. We're doing all of that. It is more of the halachic framework. As I was fasting, I was thinking, should I be? And then when it came to, I got the email about Yom Kippur Katan, I was kind of scratching my head. I think this is